Cocomelon is destroying the brains of Gen Alpha. These iPad babies are not prepared to enter the real world, and I'm deeply worried about it. I saw this video of a bunch of infants and toddlers reacting to the theme track for Cocomelon. If you weren't aware, it's the most popular YouTube channel for kids entertainment, and all of it is just CGI vomit. It's just brain rot and slop. That's all it is.
Read to your kids.
And people just, you know, plop their kids in front of the TV or hand them an iPad or a smartphone and play this for them so that they don't have to tend to their children. It's literally just a way to silence them and pacify them with mindless brain rot content. And I think that it's going to result in a generation of severely stunted, dulled individuals who are just stupefied zombies.
When did Cocomelon debut?
Late 2010s.
So how old are the kids? Like, how old is the oldest kid that ever watched Cocomelon now, probably? Like,
well, the youngest Gen Alpha were born in 2012, which is after the iPad came out.
Okay.
And that's, I think, the big delineation you're going to see.
Okay.
Between the kids who were raised with iPads in their hands and those who weren't.
Yeah.
You're going to see, and I know the oldest Gen Alpha are going to be graduating high school in the next handful of years. So this is something that we need to really think about before they enter the so-called adult world.
Yeah.
They're not able to communicate. They're not able to think. They have grown up with an iPad or a tablet as their primary attachment figure. And you've seen, I mean, I think we've all seen in public situations where these kids get the iPads confiscated from them and they absolutely lose their minds.
Yeah.
Like they don't know life without entertainment. It's terrifying, truly. So let's take a look at this video and see these children's reactions to the Cocomelon soundtrack.
All right. Here.
Cocomelon!
All of these babies just have extremely emotional reactions to hearing the Cocomelon soundtrack, as you would for like an MK Ultra trigger phrase. It's literally brainwashing.
Yeah.
And this isn't just a theory of mine, it's actually part of their business model. The audience for Cocomelon at Moonbug Entertainment, they produce 29 of the most popular online kids shows in the world, found on 150 platforms in 32 languages. They get 7.8 billion views on average on YouTube per month. Once a month, children are brought one at a time and shown a handful of episodes to figure out exactly which parts of the shows are engaging and which are tuned out. For anyone older than 2 years old, the team deploys a whimsically named tool, the Distractatron. It's a small TV screen placed a few feet from the larger one that plays a continuous loop of banal, real-world scenes, like a guy pouring a cup of coffee, someone getting a haircut, each lasting about 20 seconds. Whenever a youngster looks away from the Moonbug show to glimpse at the Distractatron, a note is jotted down. So they have an algorithm to basically put these babies and toddlers into a psychological trance-like state and brainwash them into emotional dependence on Cocomelon. And people mindlessly put their kids in front of this stuff because they want peace and quiet.
I
wonder
how much money is dumped into all of the research, development, and it's kind of like how they talk about everything seems benign until you see how much money really goes into making the things that we consume every day. Right? You go to a grocery store and you don't realize how much money went into the marketing and the psychological studies to figure out which products to place next to one another. Right? Mm-hmm. The money goes into all of this. So to do it for something like this that just ostensibly feels like brainwashing children is kind of terrifying.
So I tweeted about this, and I really didn't expect it to get as big of a reaction as it did. I said, this isn't cute, it's scary.
Yeah.
And everyone was clapping back at me, saying that I'm fear-mongering. If you're not afraid of the consequences of this, you are dumb. You should be afraid of what this is going to do to the next generation of children as they grow up.
I mean,
this should actually strike fear and alarm.
It's experiments on children, like without like
parental consent.
Well, not only that, but like without any concern for like long term, right? Like, I mean, you don't know what this kind of stuff does to the to the growing baby's mind.
It's because most people, when they think of like experiments, they think of something you have to ingest or something topical, something that actually goes in your body, rather than these types of things which are done mentally to you.
Well, I mean, look, it goes into the brain. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
It may not be that. Maybe people conceptualize it differently, but the vehicle of administering it, but it's still something that goes into the body, because the brain is unquestionably inside your body, and so what it's going to do to a developing brain, to a developing baby, like there's no studies on that or what it means long term, and I think that it's probably a good idea to keep this stuff away from your kids. It's lazy parents that want to just plop their kids down in front of a screen and not have to deal with them. What you really should be doing is reading to your kids and spending time with your kids. And I know that it's hard for people that have, full busy lives, but, it's not a good idea to just give them some kind of attention pacifier.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I also saw some people saying, okay, if you need to put your kid in front of a screen for a time, does it have to be content slop? Can you put on like a nature documentary or something? Something where, language is actually used?
Yeah.
That wouldn't be quite as stupefying as this CGI vomit.
Yeah, if you're going to put your child in front of the screen, I imagine that it's better to have them listening to the words that you would want them to be able to understand and use.
Yeah.
Wasn't it always supposed to be that you're supposed to, when you're a kid, before you have a child, you should have them listen to classical music?
Oh yeah, I don't know if any of those...
Was that ever debunked, or was that just feels like one of those things that just kind of showed up one day and everyone started doing it?
I feel like that was just, kind of snooty people being like, oh, look at my child.
And I think it's not just that. Cocomelon was also talked about for putting like weird themes about gay relationships into their episodes. There was one where this little boy was dressing up in a ballet tutu and had two dads. Mm-hmm. We talked about this on the show, I remember.
I remember that.
So it's not just the fact that it's brain rot slop. It's also that there are hidden messages in it as well. And people just want to get the easy way out. I know that there are so many parenting arguments online. Like, I don't know if your algorithms show you any of this, but I see toxic mom forums arguing about all manner of things. I mean, they're talking about, like, formula, and they're talking about co-sleeping and all of this stuff.
A Facebook mom group might be the most toxic place on planet Earth.
Like, people are constantly arguing about parenting methods. Like, is corporal punishment okay? Like, it just goes on and on and on. And I don't weigh in because I don't know what it's like to be a parent, and I just don't feel that strongly about it because of that.
Yeah.
But this is one exception where I really feel I can say this is a bad choice for any child. Like, I would never let a child in my care be attached like this to... So
what would you... Well, what do you think when you do have kids? What are you gonna play them? Or what are you
Nothing.
Nothing?
Read to them. Talk
No,
to
they're
them,
they're going to watch SpongeBob.
Okay.
No,
First 3 seasons.
I think you need to reach a certain age before you even have the privilege to do that kind of thing, because it really changes their brain chemistry.
It feels that way.
And
I imagine, and this is not that I have like firsthand experience, but I imagine if you spend time reading to your kid, talking to your kid, and actually interacting with your kid, as opposed to sitting your kid in front of an algorithm curated distraction machine, like I imagine the child's brain is going to develop, properly.
Yeah.
right. Well, boredom is really important. Like,
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday.
children
like,
are
it's
so
important
insulated from discomfort and boredom actually is what can make your child into an individual and not just a product of their environment. If they have to make their own fun and entertain and amuse themselves,
Yeah.
but they're
And the
kind of
thing is,
being
that can
insulated
be,
from even the possibility.
that can be stripped away from you eventually once they get to the age of majority and they get a phone anyways, because we talked about yesterday, like, look, I had to grow up in an age where you had to make do with, like, you didn't have a phone, you didn't have an iPad, you had to go outside and find something to do lest you be sitting around and be bored all day. But now, I'm an adult and I still find myself having to, like, tell myself to not sit on my phone and use it as a crutch rather than just going out and doing something.
Well, I had plenty of times where I had to entertain myself. I went outside and I looked at frogs and stuff like that, and it was like that. But I also wasn't raised being totally insulated from screens either. Like,
Yeah.
I watched SpongeBob and I watched Cartoon Network and I watched Veggie Tales, and that even I feel like is less destructive than having a screen in your face.
I could watch I could watch some stuff, like I think probably watched like Sesame Street when I was really little, but like there was a lot of go outside. I mean, as a Gen Xer,
Yeah.
I'm the generation that people called the neglected children. My parents were very much like,
latchkey
go
kids.
outside and don't come back until the street lights come on,
That was
or
my
go
life,
outside and play. Go outside and play, like constantly.
For us, it was my dad would whistle from across the neighborhood, and I would hear it all the way over at the park, and it was like a Pavlovian. I would just like turn around and start walking home as soon as I heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is putting it in front of infants as well. When they're infants, you should be talking to them, because the more words that a child hears when they're an infant, the larger their vocabulary becomes when they're older. That's
I mean, people
a big
talk
deal.
down to Gen Z a lot about their lack of communication skills
yeah.
and their lack of curiosity and accountability and independence. And all of those are totally valid criticisms of Gen Z. But if you think that's a problem now, with Gen Z being new to the workplace and the adult world, you will be shocked at what comes next, because the generation raised by millennials is going to be exponentially in a worse situation because of the way they were raised. Millennial parents will go down in history as some of the most selfish and neglectful, because they were not raised with these technologies. They were not raised with screens, with smartphones, with easily accessible internet. So they don't really understand from experience how destructive it can be.
So you think it'll rebound?
Gen
when the next
Z understands
generation-
that.
Gen Z will do better about parenting with screens than millennials.
I really think there will be a swing back with Gen Z parents because of the way we're aware it can be destructive. I was raised in part with a smartphone. I got my first smartphone when I was 11. And because I know that is distracting, it's destructive, that I had social media from that young age.
I wish I had faith that it was actually going to get better. I don't think it will. I think that
If
Gen
you
Alpha
have
will
the context, you can't really blame some of the older parents for not knowing what would happen, because it was just this entirely new thing. But I think if Gen Z understands the ways that it hurt them to have unrestricted internet access, they might be more willing to protect their kids from that and make the sacrifices necessary.
That is a level of introspection that I'm not sure the average everyday person is even going to participate in these days. So I don't know if I agree. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know if I agree, but we'll have to wait. We'll check back in 10 years, 20 years and see how things are going.
Also, you have to think about this. Gen Z is discouraged constantly from starting families for a lot of reasons.
Propagandized into the most nihilistic.
The ones who will end up having families anyways are doing so very deliberately and intentionally and going against the grain by doing so. So I think that actually will have a positive effect on the way that they parent, because they're doing it not because it's the default, but because they really want to do so and they're planning their life around doing that.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.